I also think it's important to define what we believe story is, or well, actually, what story is. Story is not what happens. Story is always a person. Right? It's
Ooh, I
always the
like that,
protagonist.
Peter.
Yep.
Always.
Please
Right?
explain more.
So when people talk about writing a story, generally speaking, they'll say, okay, well, this happened, and it's on a boat, and then everyone dies because it sinks. That's not the story. Titanic, the movie Titanic, has nothing to do about the Titanic sinking at all. That is not the story. The story is a kid who, for all intended purposes, had the best luck of his life and had the worst luck of his life, right? And won his ticket to get on the Titanic. And it's a love story between him and Rose. The story has nothing at all to do with the Titanic sinking.
That's right.
Right?
Oh, listeners might be mad at you right now. For
It's true,
saying
though.
that,
It's
because
absolutely
that
true.
might be their favorite
For example,
movie.
There's nothing wrong with
No,
it. It's
no.
brilliant, though.
I'm not bashing Titanic, but what I'm saying is that you can have the story of, I think his name's Jack,
Jack,
and Rose. You can have it in space.
Yeah, you can transpose it to
have
anywhere.
You can have it absolutely. They don't even have to be humans. It could be told in goldfish,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't matter.
Well, it's the same with Lion King,
Mhm.
right? Lion King's another great example that you can transpose onto almost anything,
Right.
right? There's enough fleshed out characters within it that you feel attached to them, and there's also a broad enough scope of the why and the what for you to look at, and the how is always, there's your plot line, but the who is always going to be the whole reason that you watch it. If you don't identify with a character, or they don't perform in a way that you can identify with, I think a great example of that seems to be the new Joker film, where everybody's going, what? Because the character's been taken out and now it's been replaced by a whole series of insane events. You lose the story, because all we really care about is how A and B got to C. Everything else is kind of incidental, but he's right. It's all about characters. You don't fall in love with a plot line.
So my process when writing a story, right? Remember, story is a character, is very simple. Who are you? Why do we care? What happens? That's it, right? Who are you? Why do we care? What happens? The why do we care is not what happens to the character, though. The why do we care is, who is this person? Why should I care about going on a 2-hour journey or a 2-season journey with this person? Why do we care about him or her or it?
It happened. I'll give you a good example of exactly what you're talking about. It happened in Star Wars when we were growing up. Luke Skywalker is not a particularly compelling character, even though he is the main character. Who we all fell in love with is Han Solo and Princess Leia and Darth Vader. These are compelling characters. We want to know, why is this giant guy in a black mask so terrifying to everybody else? Han Solo is this vagabond that nobody knows anything about. Princess Leia is this sort of iconic being who's also incredibly violent and can't handle it. Luke's just a kid. And so by the time it was over, even though from the outside it's the journey of Luke Skywalker to redeeming his father, it's actually the redemption of Anakin Skywalker. That's the story of Star Wars.
Wow.
Right? And so you have to make that important. So I think within the horror genre, that's been kind of left. So we'll use Hellraiser, which I think is our mutual sort of Hellraiser 1 and 2. Again, not brilliant films, but brilliant characters. Pinhead and the other Cenobites, you feel a connection to this incredibly strange, elegant, awful creature. Kind of don't care about the rest of the characters so much, but you want to follow the arc of that person. It's the same with Freddy. It's the same with Jason. Hellboy. Exactly. I mean, do you remember much about the rest of those characters? No, but you had that one feeling, right?
Yeah.
So if you have that character, you are 90% of your way there.
Ooh.
And that's just not happening right now. I think the last one that I can think of that was really, really like that, where we all went, oh, we'll follow this just because I want to know what these maniacs do, would be Devil's Rejects, which is an exceptionally violent film, horrifying characters, but man, they're interesting. And if you tell me what the story of Devil's Rejects is, I don't actually think there is one, really. But the characters, following them through this, becomes the story.
Right.
And then going back to what you asked about film and TV, in television, every one of your cast, right? The top 10 on the call
Mhm.
sheet, they can all be fleshed out just like that. Who are you? Why do we care? What happens? I think that Game of Thrones did a pretty good job of that, where every character kind of has their own little story within the confines of what's happening in the big picture. I think the books are much better. I did see the first season, I think, but in the novel, for example, the first book, Game of Thrones, it was refreshing because what they would do, or what he would do, is you'd have the story of this one person, and then it's X time of X day of X era. This thing happened to this person. Then the next chapter would be the same era, the same time, the same day, but what happened to this person
Mhm.
at exactly the same time, and the next person, and the next person, and the next person, and they're all wildly different experiences, right? And different points of view of what's happening in the kingdom or in the controversies and all the things.